Joining me this hour, Regina Imburgia. She's an anti-fluoridation activist. Her website is activistsfortruth.com, and she's got some good news to share with us about Dallas and the water supply there with regard to fluoride. Regina, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I'm delighted to have you with me. Now, let me get a little bit of background here. You got involved with Activists for Truth, founding that organization back in May of 2013. So you're now celebrating your one-year anniversary as a community activist group. What was it that inspired the founding of this organization a year ago this month?
Well, to tell you the truth, I've been an activist all my life, and I was very involved with the Ron Paul movement and other movements, and constitutional defenders that Pastor Stephen Broden had started, months before that. And I just got the feeling that I wanted to lead up something that was more, we actually exposed the truth and then encouraged activism. I'm really big. There's so many groups, and they talk a lot, but I'm one of those, it's like jump right in and let's get something done. So I just wanted to lead up something like that.
Well, I'm with you there, and I know that it can be kind of contagious because once you get started as an activist and you inspire people around you, then you'll find that they go, you actually can get something done. Let me try doing the same thing. And I'm sure you've inspired or are about to inspire many, many people to get involved in their own projects. So let's talk about the fluoridation of water. It is, in your opinion, a bad idea. First of all, what is the history? How do we even get fluoride in the water in the first place? Most of us were just born into communities where it just was always there, and we never really thought to question whether that was a good idea or not.
Yeah, most of Dallas would fall into that category. It was decided to be put in 1965. So 48 years ago, the Dallas City Council, by a decision of themselves, decided to put fluoride in the water. Of course, prior to that, there was a big campaign talking about how fluoridation would help prevent tooth decay. And so at that time, there was a lot of propaganda or endorsements or whatever word you want to use, but not a lot of research. So Dallas decided to do it. But right around the same time, an activist group was not happy with the idea. They said it's poison. We need to not have this in our water. So they got a petition together to get it out. And unfortunately, 27,080 people in Dallas at that time upheld the Dallas City Council decision. So ever since
this was on a Dallas proposition, kind of a ballot where people were able to make a vote?
Yes, in 1966. In 1965, the council made the decision among themselves. Okay? So like right now, we have 16 people on our city council. 9 of them can actually vote to take it out. We don't have to have it on the ballot. It was a misconception, which I was told when I first started approaching the city council, asking, how do we get it out? I want it out. What's the procedure? I was told that we needed to do that big process of getting the vote of the people to get it stopped. But that wasn't accurate. That wasn't accurate.
So now, before we get into the actual strategy, and I really want to cover that because I think it's very important for people to look at the brass tacks of what you did and how you did it. Okay. What was the concern? So back in the 1960s, it wasn't just Dallas. It was pretty much every major city across the United States of America, and I believe much of Canada, that said, let's do it. So somehow there must have been some kind of a movement. I don't know if there was a fluoride union that was making tons of money off of this. Do we know where this movement came from in the 60s that made this such a huge wave of adoption so quickly?
Well, the way the endorsements went about encouraging this was because at that time, tooth decay had gone down, okay? So some areas that had natural fluoridation, it looked as though, wow, that area, these people don't have tooth decay. So they associated it with the fluoride. Now, the background of where does the fluoride come from, there's a history there that I'm not as good as other people to explain this, but if you go to fluoridealert.org, it's very, very laid out very well that there was some toxins that needed to be disposed of, and if they are then labeled as a product, they can actually unload them, in other words, without having a fine. And this has to do with, it's a byproduct of the, at the time, I believe it was Alcoa. And what happened was they scraped the inside of the furnaces that would have this deposit, and then they had to figure a way to get rid of the deposit. And that's and that would be what we call fluoride. It's funny, I didn't phone up on this to talk about it on the air, and I'm honest, about this. I'm kind of past all the, how did it get started?
Sure.
And what was its intention? Because whatever their intentions were, good, bad, indifferent, whether these were the people that were endorsing it because they really, truly thought it helped the teeth, research and time has proven that it's not good. It's not good ingested. There is some evidence to show that topically it can help the teeth, but ingested, it's just not a good idea. So
now let's get into some of the reasons, and fluoridealert.org, of course, is a great resource for this. Just to bring people up to speed, I know we have listeners from all over the globe, just a couple of statistics from there, that in Europe, 97% of the Western European population does not consume fluoridated water. Japan does not. And the only nations in Europe that do are Poland, where 1% of the country has fluoridated water, Serbia, 3%, Spain, 11%, and the UK, 11%. The highest rate, interestingly enough, is Ireland, where 73% of the water is fluoridated, and really pretty much not anywhere else other than the U.S., where 70% is fluoridated. So when we're talking about kind of two things. Number one, what's up with the fluoride in your water, if there is fluoride in your water? Is it safe? Is it not safe? And I think a broader issue, or sort of a meta issue, how do you, if you have a concern about something that is so entrenched that it's been with us for nearly 50 years, and you think you were just born into the world with this thing already here, and you think it's unmovable, how do you actually make a change? All right, joining us to talk about this, Regina Imburgia. She's an anti-fluoridation activist as well as an activist for many other things. Her website is Activists for Truth, No Fluoride, in Dallas in 2014. We'll get more details in a moment. Stay tuned.
686-223 from consumers result
and my sleep really did improve.
Monkey see, monkey do. Someone will feel me and you. Vanity, compliancy. No mirrors in heaven, my friend. Hey, you waiting in line, and you're wasting your time. Can you tell me what's in the water? You wait for me, I'll wait for you.
Yeah, what's in the water?
No one knows what.
Fluoride has been in the water since, the 1960s in major cities across the U.S., but it's really been getting added to water since actually the 1940s, and it's always been controversial. There have been people worrying about this through all of history, that they've actually been adding it to the water, and it's almost kind of a watch phrase, isn't it? There's something in the water. because everybody drinks it, right? If you've got a community like Dallas or Los Angeles, then people are drinking the water, and you could put really anything in that water and have a huge impact on people. I know that there's a lot of arguments against it for just moral and philosophical reasons, completely irregardless of any health issues. Do the leaders of communities, 16 people, for example, have the right to make a decision that impacts literally millions of people in many communities around the world? Do they have the decision to make that choice for you? Do they have the power, the right, the moral and ethical right to make those kinds of decisions for vast numbers of other people, many of whom simply don't want this fluoride in their water? So, Regina, let me ask you, what are your personal, and we can get into the broader picture, but what are your personal reasons for opposing the fluoridation of the water in Dallas?
That is the main one. We're being medicated without our consent. And there was a young man that came. We meet at a La Madeleine, and this young man was eating. And he was in the room that we were going to be having our meeting in, and he was studying and doing all kind of stuff. I said, okay, what are you doing? You can stay for our meeting. And you want to know what it was? And he had just finished med school, and he was studying to do his board exam. And I was telling him about it, and we discussed the fact about the consent issue. And he said, oh, we learn about that very strongly. Even if you see somebody bleeding out or any serious thing that you think you can help them, if they refuse treatment and you help them, you can, when you are a doctor, you can, or a professional, you can lose your license and you can be charged. Yet fluoride is being added to the water to medically treat us, and we do not consent. Yet it's in the water, so it's one of those things that a doctor would normally have to give you all the pros and cons of a medicine of some sorts and tell you, and then you have to agree to it. So that was one of our main ones.
That's actually a really important point, that this is a medical intervention. I don't think anybody would deny that this is an intervention designed to modify the function of the human body.
That's right.
And you really do need people's permission, I think, before you're able to make decisions like that, because otherwise, well, I don't know, we've had a big rash in depression, got a lot of manic depression out there, maybe we've got a lot of violence, maybe we need to put some soma.
High blood pressure.
Absolutely.
Where does it end? Right.
Yeah, where does it end? And I'm actually kind of relieved in a way that it doesn't seem. Maybe there's something I don't know, but as far as I know, it's just fluoride. I'm actually really glad that they didn't say, hey, that was so successful, now let's start pumping all kinds of other stuff into the water.
Right.
At least things that we don't know that they're doing anything like that. Let's hope they don't. All right, so I'd like to open up the phone lines, actually, for this conversation. 855-KMA Radio is the phone number if you'd like to weigh in. And my email address is kma@spychips.com. That's kma@spychips.com. Please put the word radio in the subject bar so I can get right to your message. And Regina Imburgia is my guest. She's an anti-fluoridation activist. We're talking about fluoride in the water, not just in Dallas, but all around the country. And joining us now, let's see, we've got a caller from Austin, Texas. Ray is on the line with us from Fluoride Free Austin. Good afternoon, Ray.
Well, good afternoon, Katherine and Regina.
Hi.
Hi, Regina. Love to hear you.
Same here.
I wanted to address one point. I believe Katherine asked specifically who was behind this. Well, obviously, a lot of different forces came together, but there were two very, very important, I would say, crucial influences in getting the ball rolling, and one of them was the National Parent Teachers Organizations, the National Association, and, of course, with their endorsement, the local ones were easily gotten on board. I think they were deceived, but that played a terrific role, a tremendous role, called PTA in some places and PTO in others. And incidentally, within the last 5 years, the National PTO has completely withdrawn from the fluoride debate. They no longer endorse it.
Wow,
interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, so the parent-teacher associations, and I want to clarify something, because you actually raised something, Regina, in saying that there may have been an ulterior motive to try to figure out how to dump a bunch of industrial chemicals. I somehow don't suspect that that's why they said let's put it in the water. Obviously, if you have a bunch of industrial chemicals and you can get cities to want to purchase it from you at a pretty penny, then that would certainly encourage you to continue along that road. But it seems to me that there was, I think, good intentions, and I'll go out here on a limb. I can't believe that the entire parent-teacher organizations and associations of America, that all of the parents said, yes, let's poison our own children. But they may have fallen victim to some propaganda or some information that wasn't entirely valid, or maybe that just time has told us otherwise.
Oh, I'm sorry. I absolutely agree with you, Katherine. This was done with the best of intentions, at least by the local PTOs. and PTAs. Now, there is a second organization I want to make you aware of, and that was the Kellogg Foundation, which is still running around all over the place now trying to get African countries to fluoridate their salt. Kellogg Foundation is associated with Kellogg's, which makes cereal. And what do you use on cereal? Sugar. They had a great interest in creating this perception that fluoride would make it okay to eat vast amounts of sugar. That's the way I'm putting it anyway. But they worked through a shell group, a front organization called the Committee to Save Our Children's Teeth. Dr. Paul Connett mentions this in The Case Against Fluoride, an excellent recent book. And when I read that, I was just amazed because that particular Committee to Save Our Children's Teeth was active in Austin. And now I know who is behind it. And Kellogg was all over the place behind front groups putting money into this.
I'm gonna have to cogitate on that just a little bit because I'm struggling to figure out why Kellogg's would have any interest at all in putting fluoride into the food eaten by Africans or the water consumed by people in Africa. I'm puzzled by that, but I'll put it in the hopper. I will give that some thought. Ray of Fluoride Free Austin, thank you so much for calling into the program. We've got some other callers on the line here. The telephone number 877-KMA-RADIO. My email KMA@spichips.com. Visiting with Regina Imburgia, Chalk and Fluoride.
Hello, this is Steve. Also, the anti-parasite. What a smile! You're a star. The cleanest teeth you've seen.
Yeah, if we really wanted to fix people's teeth, we'd probably give a little more attention to gum health, dental health, and really restricting the amount of sugar that our children are consuming. It's kind of a basic no-brainer. We know from, I'm trying to think, the work of, we've had her on the show, from, I hate that, being on the spot, the Weston A. Price Foundation, there, it came back, that he actually was looking into, are you familiar with this, Regina? He was looking into the dental health of people in what I guess we would call less developed societies versus those of people in industrialized Western societies. And he found that as soon as they introduced the Western diet, that their beautiful, clean, straight, gorgeous teeth became a riddled mass of holes and tooth decay. And the solution, if we're talking about Africa, for example, and I think this is one of the places he looked at, the solution is not, as I guess the Kellogg Foundation is doing here, to put more fluoride in there, but maybe to just really think about what is it that human beings ought to be eating. And maybe raise our children in such a way that not only are they brushing their teeth on a regular basis, but they're also giving careful thought to the physical health effects of the foods that they consume. But, of course, that wouldn't be in keeping with all of the advertising, the huge amounts of money. Believe me, the manufacturers of Pop-Tarts and Starbursts make a whole lot more money than the manufacturers of a stick of broccoli. It's just the reality. So this is, again, where I think we need to come in and be a little thoughtful. If it's tooth decay you're trying to stop, there are better ways to do it. And this is what I keep coming back to. I've been saying this on the show for a long time. If there is a mouse in your kitchen, you do not want to get out a cannon. You want to think, okay, let me get a little humane trap or a non-humane trap, and let me just catch the mouse, or let me get a cat. Let me do something that's not going to, in addition to getting rid of the mouse, create a whole host of other problems I'm now going to have to deal with. So if you want to deal with tooth decay, there are ways to do that. That is right. That are more effective even, right? Wouldn't it be more effective?
That's right.
To just brush your teeth and eat right, even with all the fluoride in the world? Not brushing your teeth and eating wrong is still going to lead to tooth decay. All right, so with all that said, yeah, go ahead.
A lot of cities, a lot of times they cite the poverty areas and why putting fluoride in the water is beneficial to these areas because maybe they don't have the access to going to the dentist and everything else. So a lot of poverty areas that they've been fluoridating for 30 years or more still have bad tooth decay. So you can't fix the situations of poverty with not eating properly and brushing your teeth. with putting more fluoride in the water. It's the statistics show that it just doesn't hold water or anything.
It's not solving the problem, and I think that's really the broader question. So even if there are some studies, and there are, that show a slight improvement in tooth decay, and they've been disputed, and you can go back and forth both ways, but there are, even if there were undisputed studies, even if it was absolutely scientifically ironclad guaranteed that you could reduce the instance of tooth decay by 5, 10, 15% in a society or in a community by adding fluoride to the water, it would still be the wrong thing to do. It would still be the wrong thing to do. It's not something a free society should allow to happen. And even if everybody votes, even if the 65% of your neighbors go out there and vote and say, we, the majority, want fluoride in the water, it's not their place to make a medical intervention for the other 35% of people who don't want it. And it's not like you can just get away from the water. You're going to bathe in it. You're going to put it on your garden. You're going to brush your teeth with it, even if you avoid the fluoride toothpaste, which my family does. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. 855-KMA Radio. We're visiting with Regina Imburgia. She's an anti-fluoridation activist. We're talking about fluoride, taking your calls and thoughts. Let's go directly to Mindy calling in from Pennsylvania. Hi, Mindy. I think we have Mindy.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Mindy. Thanks for calling in. So what do you think about all of this fluoride?
Great topic, and it's something that so many people don't even know that it's an issue, and I didn't until I got hooked up with my naturopath back in 2008, and I was at that point spending 12 to 18 hours a day in bed. And one of the first things that she did was, she said, we need to get you a good water filter that filters out fluoride. And when we did the testing to find out what my food sensitivities were, they tested for a number of other chemicals. Fluoride was a moderate sensitivity for me. And, by then I had done a little bit of research on fluoride and was like, I wonder how much of this has, how much the fluoride has contributed to my depression. And, of course it's in a lot of the psych meds too. And I was on antidepressants for like 12 years. And it's like, ooh, yuck.
So do you think when you went off the fluoride, what happened to your condition?
Well, it was like way more complicated than that. That was like certainly not the cause. But, I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of the contributors.
And now, how do you avoid fluoride yourself now? Do you live in a community that fluoridates the water?
Unfortunately, yes. So you have to make sure that whatever water filter you get, that it has a fluoride, that you get some kind of a fluoride filter, because a lot of the standard filters don't necessarily filter out fluoride because of the particle size. It's like harder to filter out.
Yeah, and now what's interesting about fluoride, unlike chlorine, because I used to live in Los Angeles where they chlorinate the water, unlike chlorine, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. The fluoride really is almost impossible to detect. So is there a place that people can go to actually even find out to what extent their water is being fluoridated? And Regina, you raised the issue that it's difficult to even gauge and monitor the quantity of fluoride that they're adding to the water. How can people find that out?
Okay, well, I don't necessarily debate that, because I do know they go through a lot of bells and whistles to regulate the concentration of the amount of fluoride they put in the water. They check it every 4 hours. They know what the raw level is, and then they add the fluoride to bring it up to a maximum target of 0.07 parts per million. So they're doing that all the time. I don't doubt they're doing a good job. I know that they're trying to do a good job, and they do a good job. What I talk about is the concentration, the dose of how much people are getting, because they can control the concentration, but we as people are drinking more or less water. We have greater or lesser sensitivity to it.
Right, so that makes perfect sense. So it's not like a drug where you're taking a pill every day and you can monitor the amount. If you're on a special diet, you're drinking lots of water.
Right.
I gotcha.
Or you're a baby, or you're an elderly person. It just can vary so much. Plus, what doctor gives the same dose to everybody? And they always ask what interactions. Whenever you go in to talk to a doctor about any medication, there's a lot of things they take into consideration. Whereas when they're putting it in the water, none of those considerations are taken as far as people and your daily life. One thing I brought up to the city council, because this hit me the other day. I'm a cook, okay? And I started out with a pot of soup, and I reduced it by half, right? Well, I've now increased that concentration to double, okay? Now, what's really interesting in the city of Dallas, you're asking how do you know about these levels, that's something that came up interestingly enough. My daughter spoke. She's Chantal Rashvan. She's the person who was speaking before the city council on April 23rd. In her speech, she was discussing that there's a natural amount of fluoride in Dallas, and she used the number of 0.57, okay? Now, that Friday after that meeting, I went in to talk to the water department assistant director, and I said to him, my daughter said 0.57 because that was a recent number I found, but originally when I talked to you, you told me that the level is about 0.47. He goes, well, no, it can vary, and lately it's been high. I said, well, what is it lately? Can you print me off one? Listen to this. On the 25th, which was, just a few weeks ago, the raw water level exceeded the maximum they treat for. It was 0.74.
Without anything being added, and that can happen just from drought conditions where things are concentrated. All right, stay tuned.
Why are you letting that search engine spy on you?
Have you ever been treated unfairly by our friends at Legal Sheet?
Results will vary from case
dependent on drug companies. www.
A song about your movement, it's gotten legs. There's not one but many songs about getting the fluoride out of people's water. And this really is how grassroots movements get started, how they move, how they actually begin to chip away at things that seem unmovable. It is because lots of people get involved and take a stand. Regina, how are we doing on this front? How goes the battle?
We have a councilman that's very strong. He is saying we need to halt this and we need to halt it now. And another councilman spoke up and said, thank you, Councilman Cadane, for taking the leadership. I'm with you. I'll give you what support you need. So, and I know that the councilman had talked to the head of the water department, told him he wants to do this, and also to the city manager. It just needs to be done. Now, it needs to be done by a vote of 9 of the council members to literally have it be official. They will halt the fluoride being added to the water. We need people to send emails, whether you're in Dallas or not. Tell them we want to stop additional fluoride in our water. So please encourage that. Just go to Dallas City Hall emails, and there's boxes you fill in. It's really easy. So I encourage everyone to do that.
Now, when is this vote going to happen, or if there is going to be a change, when is the next opportunity to actually make this big change?
Okay, well, it has to move forward through their process. So this has only been a week or two that it was voiced that he wants to do this. Now I believe he makes a proposal and he just it comes to a vote among the council, like in a council briefing type meeting. And to tell you the truth, and this is the truth, and this is important for people to know and see, I'm not a professional person that goes to the city council all the time. The first time I started getting involved in the city council was in December. I'm a citizen just like a lot of people that doesn't know how it works. So the next step I'm not sure of. I know that a vote needs to be taken. I don't know how it's necessarily put forward, except Councilman Cadane has been there quite a few years, and he says, we're going to make this happen. I speak tomorrow before the city council again at 9 o'clock in the morning. We have an opportunity to speak once a month per person. We only have that amount of time, once a month, okay. And so I'm going to let you guys know. Of course, once they make that vote, it's done. It's done. It's over for them from there forward. And what I say is, because the pro-fluoride people will come out, have come out, okay, let them get it on the ballot, okay, for a vote of the people. Let them go through the process. Let the city council halt it. And if the pro-fluoride people have the research behind them right now, let them bring it forward and bring a vote of the people if that's what they want to do.
Right, so let it be an opt-in instead of an opt-out kind of a situation, and I'm a big believer in that across the board for really anything, that people need to actually make a proactive choice to get it. And if they want to, actually Karen writes in and says, if there are community pushes to have fluoride available to people because the topical application to teeth has been shown in studies to strengthen the teeth against cavities. If those folks who are pushing for it to be put in the water really want the community to have access to it, then can't they make it available through dental clinics free of charge to have topical fluoride applied, which is the only one that we really have serious studies showing that it really does have a positive impact. That would seem to be the solution. Save your money, stop putting it in the water where people don't even want it, and get who knows what kind of dose, and it doesn't even really do much if you drink it, and instead take that fluoride and make it available to people who want the topical application. That just seems like a better approach. All right, I want to get back to the phone lines. We've got Eric calling in from Austin, Texas, with some comments on fluoride. Hello, Eric. Good afternoon.
Hi, Catherine. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can. Thanks for calling in. What's your take on this whole fluoride thing?
Yeah, it's a great show, great topic I'm passionate about, and I just wanted to shed a little light about water itself. It's just, it's misconceived. People think water is just water. It's the furthest thing from the truth. There's such thing as structured water, this and that. And besides the fluoride, even the chlorine and the other things that are in the water. But, I mean, our wells, it seems like they've been poisoned by, all this stuff in the water. In water, the first thing that they look for sign of life on any other planet. It's in all living things. And really the reason people don't understand that it's really a superconductor in our bodies, conducting energy. And that it's basically like a liquid crystal. And that's why, and what they've done is that, there's all this stuff that's in there. If it's not pure living water or structured water, I mean, it's causing all kinds of health concerns, let alone our teeth.
Well, I'm not sure I buy the whole living structured water thing. I've actually read a whole lot of stuff on that, and it's been, to me, unconvincing, but, let me completely agree with you. The human body, the majority of the human body is water. It's the one thing short of air that you can't survive with for any span of time. You will die very, very quickly if you don't get water. It's a huge political hot potato. It is used, it's controlled, it's manipulated, it is used by the wealthy against the poor. It is a huge issue. And in fact, we could do a whole series of shows just on water alone. Eric, I could not agree with you more. If they're messing with the water, even the chlorine, all the other things in the water, you've got real issues. And one of the things I wanted to ask Mindy when she called in the last segment was what kind of water filter she was using. I would love to do a series of programs and maybe even evaluate some of the different water filtering processes that are available out there for people who can't or who can't move out of communities where they don't have Regina Imburgia doing their activism for them. Go ahead.
May I mention something? Reverse osmosis takes the fluoride out. And so at this point, I purchase bottled water, and I go to Whole Foods. You can bring your bottles and fill it up for like 35 cents a gallon. So reverse osmosis does take the fluoride out.
Now, I actually purchased, when I was going through cancer treatment, my wonderful husband hawked the farm, basically, and bought us a reverse osmosis water filter. And that's what I cook spaghetti in, that's what I cook potatoes in, that's what I drink. That's the primary water that we use is the reverse osmosis water. And I have to say, the water tastes better. It's clean. If I put it, we're trying to grow an avocado seed, and we've got the little toothpicks in it. When the water level drops down, you don't get that white ring of all the minerals. It just, you could literally have it just evaporate, and there would be no trace on the glass. So there's nothing in it. And the only downside, of course, it's expensive. It's not a cheap thing to do. I actually reached out. It's interesting. When I was buying the replacement filters, I reached out to the company and said, hey, listen, I'm a radio host. Maybe we want to talk about reverse osmosis. So maybe we can get them on the show and maybe even find some kind of discount for listeners if people really want to do that. Because I think you're right. It's not just, Eric, you're right. It's not just the fluoride. I was wrong when I said they're not adding other stuff. They're adding chlorine. Anti-algae agents. I don't know what all they're putting in our water, but we should probably find out.
And another comment may I make about that is that's one of the things people get confused about. Several of the items that they put in the water is for water safety. It's killing bacteria or other things that they're saying it's in there for. But fluoride is being added as a medical treatment. That's why it's not a nutrient, because then some people will say, well, what about vitamin D that's put in milk or whatever, you know? It's not a nutrient. It's something that your body can live without. It's not like it's something, you understand that's how they classify a nutrient, where you would have a disease. This is, they're not treating a waterborne disease either. They are actually medicating for preventing tooth decay, which their research does not show that it's that effective. And another comment that I constantly make is, when in doubt, leave it out. There's a precautionary rule that medicine, for centuries, is always, the thought is, do no harm. And also, if there's a risk, if there are potential risks, which there are several, when in doubt, leave it out. Okay? So that's one of the things I try to stress to the city council.
Yeah, and not only that, even if the evidence is not compelling to listeners, you can go out and do your own research regardless of what you think about it. It's wrong. It's just wrong of people at the top, quote unquote, to make these kinds of decisions. This is a handful of people who made these decisions in the 60s, 50s, 70s, 40s, whatever. It is wrong of them to make these decisions for us. We ought to be making these decisions for our children and ourselves at the dentist's office, not, while sitting in a dentist chair, not while just making lemonade in the kitchen. All right, Regina Imburgia, I want to thank you so much for standing up to the plate. I want to congratulate you on 1 year of activistfortruth.com. activistfortruth.com. All right, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It encourages everyone that you can make a difference. So,
all right, absolutely. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Regina Imburgia, again, activistfortruth.com. I'm your host, Dr. Katherine Albrecht, and we'll be back again tomorrow. See you then. God bless.